to your mother. It's time for another episode of Birds with Friends. Just some high-flying, ran fast vertical stems of professors from Penn watching eagles eat and pray like Pazookies on birthdays. It's Philadelphia. Marissa, Bo, and Zach kicking it. Cooler than 3 penguins till Zach runs off with his valet keys. He's a real nuanced goose. Pull up a branch, get loose. It's time for some juice on some
Birds with Friends.
The early bird gets the worm, but prefers getting turned like a turn on some
Birds with Friends.
Marissa, Bo, and Zach are here to squawk. Don't miss the mistress talk on some.
I love the combines. It's effectively the start of the offseason. I know they talk about the Senior Bowl like that.
And what a long off season it was.
When you're at like a company event with Bo, it's honestly it's like Peyton Manning at a quarterback convention. He's a big deal at these things.
Done. We were muted.
We were muted. Are we unmuted?
We're unmuted now.
Hello, everybody. Once again, and welcome to Birds with Friends. Bo, Zach, and Marissa. Tuesday afternoon. You just saw Nick Sirianni. There's his
In the red
Phillies, sweatshirt. He may or may not be joining us later in the show. Unfortunately, we have gone on long enough. And so I say for Marissa and Zach and Coach Sirianni, we thank you for joining us on this episode of Birds with Friends live from the Combine. We'll talk to you later this week for Flu World Order. And as always, we love you.
As is often the case, no one understands the joke here. We're at the Scouting Combine. Big day here for the Eagles.
We're still going?
Nick Sirianni spoke.
This has gone on long enough, don't you think?
Howie Roseman spoke.
Who could possibly hang on this long?
Most importantly, the Eagles
numbers tell us people have dropped off by now.
The Eagles hired their offensive coordinator, Brian Johnson, their defensive coordinator, Sean Desai. They have started to assemble the coaching staff. Still some moves to make, but quarterbacks coach Alex Tanney, Marcus Brady, now the senior offensive assistant, TJ Pagnetti, a running game specialist, and an assistant tight ends coach. So a lot going on. This is the newsiest day of the non-playing season to date, and we are here to chronicle and cover it all at the Scouting.
All right, let's start with lunch. So, you know, we're together for the first time in a long time. It's a nice opportunity for us to bread together.
Wait, first time in like 8 hours because we were with each other last night.
Yeah, but we were not like together. We were doing the podcast and then we had the company happy hour. We didn't get to have a meal together. So we set up lunch today. We're asking Michael Dunn, who's in town, if he can join us for lunch. We're texting around, like, let's meet at Cafe Patachu at 11:30 for a team lunch. Right?
Team lunch.
We sit down. Marissa and I get there first. Zach is late as always.
Wait, no, that's erroneous. You were there at 11:20. I was there at 11:26. I was there at 11:26. I was early.
That's late by Coughlin time. Were you? I mean,
right,
Marissa and I were there first, so Zach shows up late. Marissa and I, we got our waters. We're looking at the menu. It's a QR code situation. Great menu. Trying to figure out what we're gonna have. You know, talking shop. Just about life.
Talking shop, huh?
Okay. Not about anything business related, just like, you know, what's going on in our lives, what's the free agency situation coming up for Michael. Zach plops down, sits at the head of the table, crosses his arms and goes, all right. I think we need the shows to be shorter.
Okay, that's not an accurate portrayal.
The shows are too long.
Okay, that's not an accurate portrayal, but
I'm sorry. Hello. Nice to see you, Zach.
Okay, I know.
Can we hang out? Like,
so
what is this?
We're ostensibly here to be reporters this week, so let's have accurate information. Okay.
Is that not how you remember it, Marissa?
First off, some small talk because we're talking about Michael coming. All right, and I wanted to make sure we finished the shop talk, if you will, before Michael arrived at lunch. Okay, so after we put in our orders, I said,
"Were you under the impression that we were having shop talk?"
Usually,
Did you think this was like a retreat to plan the Birds with Friends off experience, or did you think this was a nice lunch between friends who get to see each other, you know, together in person for one of the very few times we're together.
This is pressure. I feel like I said to you guys, I feel like a small child whose parents were disagreeing at the table.
So
And I was just stuck in the middle and I was like, please, can we just enjoy our breakfast together?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking too. Can we just enjoy our breakfast together? Not like, oh, I think we should Manuel Balacho on the show.
Right? You're talking to someone here who has
Oh man.
No, by the way.
who's never met a company happy hour he doesn't like. Okay, but usually
What are you
when
talking about? I showed up late yesterday.
when you have
You
when
did show up late.
when there's a quote unquote team lunch, I interpret that to mean let's talk business. So we got our small talk out of the way. We ordered the food, and I said, some
I've been thinking a lot about this, and I
some
think that the
off-season
show that we're
objectives-
doing is
No.
not the show that we should do.
no time out. That's first off, this is a huge day for the Eagles. We should talk about that. But because you brought it up, simply said, I said there are two things I think we can do to improve the show this offseason. I think we can have more guests. Okay, because I thought our Super Bowl shows were really good because of the dynamic of a guest.
Agreed.
And then
I would argue it is because we were in person with the guests who we already had experience with, but yeah, okay.
And then I said that I think we can tighten up our shows. I think they can be too long, and I think we should tighten it up. And I talked about the data that we have that shows when people stop listening to the show. Okay,
Not the defops.
Now,
Not the minions.
now,
Not the sickos.
look,
Okay,
this
I
is
don't care about those other people. You might spit in my face.
okay. Hey, look, there are some people who are like stuck
It would
in
be
time.
like if I walked up to you and I said, "Your backdrop sucks."
Look, I'm afraid of progress. I'm not
you
afraid
made
of
me
change.
feel like a
I'm
real
not-
dirt of the earth.
Yeah, I'm not.
person.
It's very easy to be scared of things that aren't like you. Okay, this is a situation where what you're trying
Call
to
him
do
Zach.
is
Says DeSantis over here.
says this over here. what you're
The
trying
chat
to do?
is saying the puns are not long enough.
Let's hear from you. Let's hear from you.
Okay.
If you think that the podcasts are too long, tell us. We won't listen to you.
Well,
Let us know.
But
Let's
well, check out the iTunes comments for a second.
Believe me, the iTunes comments are no friends of Bo Wolf, and I am no friends of the iTunes commenters. Okay, they're listening to the wrong show.
All right, so that's all. It was an innocent. Proposal
It's
to
actually
improve.
curious how many of them have the last name Berman, but
I don't think there's a Berman who knows how to leave an iTunes comment. Okay, so
I don't think it's true.
but
I think it was
I mean,
I was
Berman
trying to
absolutely
be
knows how to leave,
productive in our
an iTunes
lunch
comment.
thank you.
and casual. Don't think it was meant to be like, we need to make the episode shorter. You know, that's how
You thought we
were.
were just getting lunch, didn't you? You thought we
No,
were
I
just
mean-
getting a fun lunch together.
I mean, we could always talk about the show and the off-season plan. And
Yeah, when we're on
what's
Slack
next?
all day long. Like,
God forbid you try to improve a show, right? Like goodness.
goodness.
how could you improve this?
Oh, I have some ideas.
Oh,
And then I
I was
also
thinking
said
one thing I could do about the show is maybe Bo shouldn't be on it anymore. I've been reading the iTunes comments, and I think they're onto something.
anyways, are you finished, or can we talk about the news of
I
the
don't know,
day?
Marissa. I feel like. What do you think?
I mean, I don't want to take either side here. I support both of you and the show and all the listeners. And I do think that it was a very busy day for the Eagles, and there's a
Thank you.
lot to get to.
Thank you.
So
All right,
we
let's.
spent
You know,
9 minutes
we need
on
to
lunch.
we need to do like a survey, like a listener survey.
Yeah.
Ask the people if they think the show is too long. It can be like a choose your own adventure. If you think the show is too long, you can jump off a cliff. But
Wait.
Bo was in the mood because I complimented the waitress, and Bo was at my neck about that as
Zach,
well.
I was hoping you didn't remind
Oh,
him about
okay.
that.
yeah, yeah.
You just opened
How
a
would
whole
you-
can of worms.
You are a hard-working, busting your waitress. You know that you're a very good waitress, and you know, like halfway through not even halfway through the meal, like 2 minutes into the meal, your customers goes, "You're a very good waitress."
I thought it was very nice.
Thank you, Marissa. She was
Who are you to tell me I'm a good waitress?
only you would be offended by when someone's accommodating
thank you, dear. Like the Roger Ebert of waitresses has deemed me thumbs up.
She was giving she was accommodating, she was giving recommendations, she was juggling a handful of things. And I said, thank you. I said, you're a really good waitress. I thought it was a compliment.
I took it as a compliment.
Thank
too.
you. I think most reasonable people would.
Well,
But Zach walked into that. He forgot about it.
I did forget about it.
Okay.
I was like thinking, Bo
so-
forgot about that. And then you brought it up.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't feel strongly about that as I did about like the spit being hawked in my face by Zach telling me, plopping down and saying the show needs to be shorter.
Being hawked in your phone. All right, let's talk Eagles. Let's talk Brian Johnson. Let's talk Sean Desai. Let's talk Howie Roseman. Let's talk Nick Sirianni. This was a busy day for the Eagles, the busiest day of the non-playing season.
All right, why don't we start with Brian Johnson? Well, go chronologically because that was the news that broke first, and the least surprising of the news. Brian Johnson, new offensive coordinator. Alex Tanney, as you mentioned, also as expected, becoming the new quarterbacks coach. We've already sort of talked about this, Zach, but what do you make of that it has happened and moving forward with Johnson Arch?
I've only heard good things about Brian Johnson. Have spoken a number of times and have had positive interactions with him. Players speak highly of him. Coaches speak highly of him. So, yeah, I think he earned this promotion. There is a degree of, I don't want to use the term mystery. There's unknown in terms of how he'll do as a play caller. Shane Steichen was a really good play caller. But what Nick Sirianni emphasized is this is the Eagles offense. And that was the case. I mean, Nick was adamant about that last offseason, was adamant about that during the season, said it again today. This is the Eagles offense. So Brian Johnson, there's a new play caller, but the system doesn't change. And, but I think this is a good opportunity for Brian. And look, he was, as we've said, he was going to be an OC either somewhere else or here. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's a head coach very soon.
We say that, but it's also like if Shane Steichen didn't get the Colts job, what other jobs? Did we talk about this yesterday? What other jobs would have been available? I mean, I think that he probably was going to be an OC, but if he had read the leaves that Steichen wasn't leaving, then he would have gone somewhere else.
Yeah,
I think Carolina probably would have been the likely one, but
I think there was a pretty good sense that, I mean, he interviewed at other places,
right? And
he reportedly got offers.
So he must have known that Shane was.
Yeah, I think the Eagles had a sense Shane was going, and look, despite what happened with Frank Reich, there's a relationship between the Eagles and the Colts. I think they knew where that was headed before the Super Bowl.
I also think the Marcus Johnson thing is maybe underplayed
Marcus
here.
Brady,
sorry.
Okay.
Marcus Johnson, of course, the great Eagles wide receiver and Colts wide receiver of years past. The Marcus Brady thing is, I think, a little underrated because if comparing this to 2018 when Frank Reich leaves and Mike Groh is promoted and nobody else really comes into the staff, like if you're worried a little bit about the brain drain, so to speak, I think we probably, like, Marcus Brady was an offensive coordinator. That's an important voice to have in the room that sort of guards a little bit against just losing people.
You're right. Well said. And has experience as a quarterbacks coach before that too. So you still have that quarterback. I was going to say quarterback factory. The quarterback incubator, I think, is the term
Much better word
that was used when the Eagles had that Doug Peterson, Frank Reich, John DeFilippo staff. I mean, here you have a case where Brian Johnson, college quarterback. You have Alex Tanney, NFL quarterback for 10 years. Marcus Brady, been a quarterback coach in this league. I'm not positive his playing background. He was in the CFL.
Calls himself a reporter.
So I do think Marcus Brady is a good it's a good presence to have there. And then Alex Tanney, who you can talk about. We've heard good things about him.
Yeah, it was probably Nick's best answer during his press conference today. Was
because Bo asked. Yeah,
I'd say that's probably true. I think there's a direct correlation. I think most of his best answers from me. Obviously not. Guy barely knows my name.
That's not. There were a number of Bo's. Yeah.
Shem Beckler?
No, I mean I actually think your Bo hit rate is the highest of any name hit rate in the past 4 months.
No way.
I mean,
absolutely not.
Yeah.
You've been counting?
I've been counting. When it happens that frequently, you notice.
Did you think Nick's press conference went too long today?
There's no such thing as too long. For a Nick press conference.
Yeah, to clarify.
Yes. I thought Howie's press conference was too short. Howie's press
No
conference,
such thing is too short.
Howie's press conference, they cut off 10 minutes, or really like 9 minutes. And then, Nick went longer because he had some long answers at the end. He got excited about your question. He got excited about Mike Garafolo's question. He got excited about a few
pros.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know what else there is really to say about Brian Johnson.
Well, how do you think he'll do as a play caller?
Able to say,
Okay.
But I think there's reason for excitement. I think there is. I think this is different than 2018, where it was like the backfilling Frank Reich and Doug was still trying to sort of carry the weight of the staff.
And Doug called the plays.
I think that when the Eagles hired Brian Johnson from Florida, I think they expected that this was that he was not going to be a quarterback's coach for very long.
Mm-hmm.
He had some play calling experience at Florida, right? I think people who watched the offenses under him thought that he knew what he was doing, like and he could design an offense well. I think
Kyle Trask's numbers show that,
right? And Dak Prescott at Mississippi State, right? I think the way that Nick talked about him today, that he's how involved he's been in the scheming of like red zone plays and first 15 or whatever it is, tells you that he's been a part of that process to begin with. Why are you looking at me like you don't believe me?
I'm listening to what you're saying. You're making eye contact.
You're looking at me like you're making fun of me.
I can't win today, Marissa. I'm listening to what he's saying. I'm listening.
He's like, oh yeah, it's interesting.
Bo,
there's Zach is a very he listens very well. So I doubt that he's not listening to you.
So he wasn't listening. I just thought he was.
Bo, you can read about it. It's called being an engaged listener. Okay,
No, it wasn't that you weren't listening. It was the look on your face.
There are certain we
need time apart.
Yeah, they've spent a lot of time together.
There was not enough time in between the season.
You guys got what? 6 days?
I gotta tell you, I was excited to see Bo when I came here.
I was really excited to have a nice lunch together, the three of us, not talk about business.
Okay, so
I think have shorter shows.
Well, I mean, we did get something productive out of that. We are gonna hopefully meet up for a live pod.
Show. Another suggestion, yes.
Yeah,
suggestion.
I agree with that.
Yes.
So
it wasn't all negative from your perspective.
I mean, Bo likes these small talk gatherings. I'm
sorry. I can friend, and I'd like to hang with a friend.
I appreciate that. I thought
we were more than colleagues, but apparently not. Every time we're together, has to work.
Who sings that song, Zach?
Work every day and every night. Is that the song?
No? I was thinking of the other one.
What the song is? I've been work every day and every night.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid. Work every day, every night. Yeah, so
I was referring to.
Is that a real song?
I mean, I could Google it.
Ask to the commenters, is this a real song?
Is that a real song?
Maybe that's.
I was referring to the Rihanna song.
Yeah, of course you are.
Here, let me Google this because I definitely. I'm not making it up. That's the song that
I mean, I believe it's a song you sang. It may be a song you made up.
Okay, so I don't want to get into this.
Why?
It's the Passover song.
Nice.
Okay.
There we go.
Right. For the slaves in Egypt, That's how I knew that song. Okay.
I mean, I never know where this pod is going to go. That is 100% somewhere I never thought the pod would go. All right. Back to Brian Johnson.
You want to know the songs I remember from my childhood? Work every day and every night. I can't tell you anything about Rihanna. But I can tell you work every day and every because I heard that all the time. I was like, all right.
I do have one Brian Johnson take.
Yeah.
You know how we there was this extensive external process about defensive coordinator, and we never heard anything about external offensive coordinator interviews. And by the rule, the Eagles are required to interview
Yep.
a minority candidate for every job, even if they are interviewing minority candidates internally.
Yep.
And Sirianni said today they interviewed one external candidate, who is the offensive coordinator at Iowa State,
Yep.
Nate Scheelhaus.
Yep.
That feels like a shame to me.
A sham interview.
Yes, I don't think they took that seriously.
Look,
I think they probably knew that they were hiring Brian Johnson. I think that really the spirit of the law.
I mean, they
The
gave
rule, rather.
Nate is it Scheelhaus?
I believe it's pronounced Scheelhaus.
Scheelhaus.
Like,
They gave him an
where Nia
opportunity
lives.
to interview for an NFL job, right? I mean, so you know,
that's not. I mean, like the charity of you get to interview for an NFL job, like if it's a thing that you have no chance of getting, is not really like
look. I mean, I
nicest thing to do.
I very much believe in obviously in the running rule and the spirit and making sure that but yeah, the spirit of it is to bring different candidates, in and so to your point, you have a decent chance for the job. Look, we had been hearing for weeks this was going to be Brian Johnson. So what did he have? Did he have a decent chance? I don't know, but the example you always hear is that Mike Tomlin is someone who the Steelers did not have exposure to it. That believe there was Russ Grimm and Ken Wisenhunt, and he comes in and he did an outstanding job in the interview, hired him, and all these years later, he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. NFL history. Frank never had a losing record. He's won a Super Bowl. And he's someone who like they did not know him. He was the Vikings defense coordinator for 1 year. And they had internal candidates, Russ Grimm and Ken Winston, who were expected to be the head coaches when Bill Cowher stepped down. So look, Nate Scheelhaus, I mean, Nick said very nice things about him. I can't tell you. I don't want to say it was a sham interview because I don't know. Like, I don't know enough about it. I just learned about it a few hours ago. But he did have an opportunity to sit in front of a head coach, I assume a GM, and look, I imagine this is going to be. I mean, this could be something he learns from and Tim on a good track here. From what so Tom Manning was their OC last year, and
this guy doesn't even call plays.
Well, no, he just got promoted to OC, from what I understand.
Right.
So, but
I mean, it's a tricky situation because, like, it's an open secret that they're hiring Brian Johnson anyway, and so to get people to come for an interview is probably difficult, even if you are trying to take it seriously. And we could probably also debate whether rules should even be applicable in this situation, but it is, and it doesn't feel like this is a real. Yeah, he's going to the Iowa State pipeline. They're doing each other a favor.
Look, I don't have enough information to say, but that they did interview Nate Scheelhaus.
Otherwise, I think the one thing that nobody really talks about with Brian Johnson, I don't know if you know this, and this is probably the most important thing about him. He once played for Jalen Hurts' dad, and really he knew Jalen for a long time.
Yeah, he did at I believe Baytown Lee. I believe yeah. So, and Brian Johnson tried recruiting Jalen Hurts multiple times and could not get him to come play for him. Teamed up with the Eagles, but Jalen Hurts, Brian Johnson is currently in his own right. I thought what you're going to say is
I also think because we're talking about the running rule, we should say it's important to note that these now have all three coordinators are minority candidates.
Yes, yeah, and deservedly so. And yeah, they
deserve to be minority.
They deserve to be the. I mean, they're. Look, yeah. Michael Clay's in his third year. He's going into his third year. Sean Desai's been a coordinator before. We'll talk about him. Brian Johnson certainly earned this role, and yeah, the Eagles have.
One note on Michael Clay. Nick Sirianni said 2 weeks ago that he's coming back.
Yes. Yes. I thought what you were going to say with Brian Johnson. He was on the cover of NCAA football 2010.
Hmm.
A game that I admittedly played.
That's not bad admission.
Do you think Nick Sirianni, when
I'm sure that he played it.
he was he was an assistant coach at the time at IUP, I believe. Do you think
Yeah, I bet he played it.
him and DK McDonald sharing a house? Do you think they played with football?
You should ask him.
I'd be happy. He's not there, but yeah.
Okay, next time.
Who was your team in NCAA football?
I didn't have like a team. I would change it up.
Dynasty
If I
and
did, yeah, and I would move around.
Okay.
I always like doing Hawaii, just like the
Interesting.
idea of being the Hawaii, trying to build a Hawaii powerhouse.
I feel like the WAC was too easy though to games.
Oh, jeez. Where were you playing?
Where was I playing? Well, I would Syracuse now changed the conference. I wasn't in the Big East, right? So switched then to either the ACC or the Big Ten, and
Run some people over.
yeah, I had a good program there.
Yeah. All right. Why don't we take a break? Back, we'll talk Sean. What else we heard from Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni, and any more interpersonal feuds we need to talk about.
You can tell when you're using a cheap razor based on the nicks and the cuts and the irritation. And then there's the annoyance of subscription razors when you're waiting for the cartridges to arrive, or you can't believe how much you just spent on them. That's why you must meet Henson Shaving. Henson Shaving is a family-owned aerospace parts manufacturer that has made parts for the International Space Station and Mars rover, and now they are bringing precision engineering to your shaving experience. Razor blades are like diving boards. The longer the board, the more wobble. The more wobble, the more nicks, cuts, and scrapes. A bad shave isn't a blade problem, it's an extension problem. By using aerospace-grade CNC machines, Henson makes metal razors that extend just 0.0013 inches. That's less than the thickness of a human hair. That means a secure and stable blade with a vibration-free shave. And it gets better. The razor has built-in channels to evacuate hair and cream, which makes clogging virtually impossible. Seriously, Henson Shaving wants the best razor, not the best razor business. That means no plastic, no subscriptions, no proprietary blades. The Henson razor works with standard dual-edge blades to give you that old-school shave with the benefits of new-school tech. Once you own a Henson razor, it's only $3 to $5 per year to replace the blades. I'll admit that affordability is attractive to me. Only $5 a year in blades, that's a good sale right there. It's time to say no to subscriptions and yes to a razor that'll last you a lifetime. Visit hensonshaving.com/birds to pick the razor for you and use code BIRDS and you'll get 2 years worth of blades free with your razor. Just make sure to add them to your cart. That's 100 free blades when you head to hensonshaving.com/birds and use code BIRDS.
Welcome back, Birds with Friends. Bo, Zach, and Marissa. And we turn our attention now to the defensive side of the ball, where Sean Desai is the man who replaces Jonathan Gannon. Most recently, the assistant head coach for the Seahawks. Pete Carroll let the cat out of the bag on this bad boy earlier in the afternoon, but the Eagles were still on the final details of the contract. Got it done just in time for the press conferences. That's what really matters. And Zach, I want to start with what I thought was the easiest answer today, which was Nick Sirianni not committing to Denard Wilson remaining on the staff.
Another question you asked. Look at that.
What can I say? I just asked all the good questions.
Jeez. If I may, the easiest questions were the ones that I asked.
Yeah. I mean,
Yes.
I don't know. You tell me what he's about Quez Watkins, and we can.
Jeez.
Did you want to lead with that, or did you want to go Joe?
So what he said about Denard Wilson, he said that Denard Wilson's a really good coach and he would love for him to be the defensive backs coach, but really didn't come. He said they need to see how this shakes out, and that I'm glad you because you asked it direct. I asked the question earlier, like how did he manage this? I guess why did you go external, and how do you manage the staff dynamic? And I was alluding to Denard Wilson, but any other coach in there who might have hoped to be defensive coordinator. And yeah, Nick was. I'm glad you asked that directly because I did not expect that to be the answer. I don't know what jobs are out there in terms of who's, but there's always teams that could add a defensive pass game coordinator, things like that. You can create it. So Denard Wilson's a good coach, and Denard Wilson's thought highly of, but clearly the Eagles went external here. And from the sounds of it, the Eagles valued that coordinator experience, right?
Said that, yeah.
Yeah. And so 2 years as a defensive coordinator, he's called it before. But conversely, the only time for someone to come, the only way to get experience is to get experience. And so that is something Nick's going to have to manage. And I thought that was an interesting answer. What did you make of it? You think he's not coming back?
That's sort of what it sounded like, right? Basically, that Desai is going to have the opportunity to the staff however he wants. And I would imagine that if you're Denard Wilson, you probably feel some kind of way about not getting the job, right? And if there is a lateral move you can make, you probably would want to. But it doesn't mean he's definitely not coming back.
No. And to your point about Desai potentially building a staff, he is from what I gather, defensive background, right? Like he was a safeties coach,
right?
So maybe that's a spot of the ball where he kind of wants his
different
imprints on.
Yeah.
Now that's next year took over that coaching job and kept Aaron Moorhead as the wide receivers coach.
Right.
So you never know. But
it also doesn't sound as if I think Pete Thamel reported recently that your boy Jesse Minter was the runner-up for the job.
Did he report that?
So
I haven't had my phone was dead, and
some people are prepared for the combine, and other people are not.
I was honestly surprised your phone was dead, Zach.
I think this has happened. Didn't this happen at the Super Bowl too?
Maybe you need a new phone. Yeah, I just got a new one.
I wake up early and I'm texting from first thing in the morning.
Yeah, but it should not
keep it plugged in then.
Yeah.
I think you probably need.
You're right.
Might need a new.
He's trying to blame it on working harder in the morning.
Work every day and every night, right? So no, it's interesting to see. I thought, I mean, in all honesty, I thought that was a good question. I thought it was a good answer.
But I think it does. I mean, the Eagles did cast a wide net. I think the process was good here, and I think that of the available candidates, it makes sense. I think there's reason to be excited about Desai. You look at that Bears defense in 2021 that probably overperformed its talent level a little bit. I think they finished 14th in defensive DVOA. Better against the pass than against the run, so that's going to be probably a carryover stylistically in terms of like the emphasis of the defense. I'm curious to see how aggressive he's going to be, all that kind of stuff, and I think we'll have a chance to talk to both he and Brian John probably in the coming weeks.
So, look, I think Nick Sirianni has a different read on defense than some listeners do, because I think Nick thought
he likes giving up points.
I think he's a top 5 defense that led the league in sacks, no, but
yeah, we actually did. We should probably talk about this because we heard from Gannon today, and there were a lot of questions from Eagles reporters about this ball, and Zach sort of stepped in trying to like take the arrows on his back, like guys, leave him alone. He did a great job, top 5 defense.
Stop, come on, that's erroneous. I mean, yeah,
started crying.
I mean, God forbid someone exercises nuance, right? Jeez. All right, let me gather myself here. No. I mean,
come on, Zach, fire back.
Should we end the show? We're at 35 minutes. That's probably long enough.
I'm not going to fire back. I mean,
do it.
I'm going to take the higher road. So, yeah. So, and going back to Nick Sirianni, I think Nick views this like they have a good defense, they have a good system, and he doesn't want to have he doesn't want to change he doesn't want to change what's working. He doesn't view it like, when you're bringing in someone who's the opposite of the guy who was there before. Now, I mean, if they're in the Super Bowl again, they need to have a better game plan than they had, right? They did not do well enough against Patrick Mahomes. I mean, there are, a lot of defensive coordinators who can certainly empathize with that too.
Every one of them has done better than the Eagles did, but yeah.
So I think that they, like, philosophically, schematically, we're not looking for a change. But whenever you have a different person, you're going to have different personality, different a way of calling games, different way of conducting things. And so Sean Desai is his own person. He has independent experience, and I like that Nick looked external. I think that's important to do. So I think it's going to be. The reason I'm kind of hesitating here is I don't know what this defense is going to look like personnel wise, and I think you kind of build your scheme around your personnel. The Eagles could play a certain way this year because they had Darius Slay and James Bradbury as their corners. Tell me who that second corner is going to be. Tell me who your safeties are going to be. Tell me who your linebackers are going to be. Frankly, tell me who your pass rushing defensive tackles are going to be, right? Like there's so much unknown with this defense that it's hard for me to say they're going to play this way or they're going to play that way. You can play a certain way when you have two lockdown corners that I don't know if they're going to be in that situation next year. I mean, James Bradbury won't be back, right? James Bradbury is going to get paid somewhere else. Now, if the Eagles draft a corner in the top 10 who has the type of, effect on the defense that Sauce Gardner had with the Jets, then, you're in a good situation. But if you're trying to figure out that second corner spot and you're vulnerable there are things you need to do coverage-wise to account for that. If the Eagles don't have the internal pressure that Javon Hargrave gave them, right? If they turn to Jordan Davis and Milton Williams and, player X,
I think the answers to your questions are Reed Blankenship, Marcus Epps, first-round pick, Nakobe Dean, free agent, Milton Williams, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, second-round pick.
Interesting. Wow. That's not as good a defense personnel-wise. You're really counting on. You're counting on Jordan Davis to make the
Javon Hargrave, Fletcher Cox.
Javon.
Actually, I don't know. I mean, Flu World Order is going to be fantastic.
Yes,
I can't wait for Friday.
One of us, right?
I mean, personally, I like to discuss Eagles topics on the show, and so a game that is built around really diving deep into the Eagles' decision-making process, I think is good for our listeners. You sometimes, I know, prefer this sort of nonsense.
The nonsense.
Yeah.
You
said you weren't excited
what
for
Flu World Order is?
As if they don't.
Know.
The people drop off after an hour and 20 minutes don't know, but the real sickos know. Flu World Order, we give all the potential free agent departures and or trade possibilities, and we rank the likelihood that they'll be back in Philadelphia, and I win the game.
Just take a moment. Just take a moment there to think about what you said. The people who drop off after an hour and 20 minutes. Do you know how long an hour and 20 minutes is?
80 minutes.
Yes. Do you realize like how much disposable time do you have that an hour and 20 minutes?
Says Mr. Podcast. So I listened to a great podcast the other day with I don't know, Billy King.
I would love to listen to a Billy King podcast. I can tell you what I do, whether I'm driving for 30 minutes or taking a walk or a bike ride or something else for 30 minutes. I listen at 1.5 speed.
Freaky.
A 45-minute podcast at 1.5 speed. Or I'm sorry, for 30 minutes at 1.5 speed, I can listen to a 45-minute podcast. Right. So that's basically. I usually get to the 45-minute mark of a podcast
and then drop off.
So
you're the problem.
I mean, I can pull up the data here if you want, Bo, but
yeah, you know what the data says? The data says this is the best podcast in the company. That's what the data says.
Well, I agree with that. We are the best podcast in the company.
Okay.
Yeah.
My boss
We've
John
got our boss
is sitting
sitting
right here.
Yes.
Yeah. He just gave a big thumbs up. He said, absolutely.
And clapped a few
he's
times.
actually handing us all money. He's just congratulations, guys.
Yep.
I think generally speaking, relative to Desai and Johnson as like the day that the Eagles fill out the staff, I think there is reason to be excited. Relative to like having to hire this late in the cycle, given the options available to them, I think they did pretty well. And I think we can trust that the defensive coordinator process was well run because they brought in all of these interesting external candidates.
Yeah.
They found a good fit. I think that even Vic Fangio would have been great. And probably the Eagles would have tried to keep him if they knew Gannon was leaving sooner. But I also think that it would have been, we talked about this relative to Mike Zimmer, but it would have been a different dynamic in the building, right? With
Mhm.
having sort of an old crusty guy with Nick Sirianni. And I think that I think like that this staff that has been so built on like youthful energy and like really good teachers, like there is no one described more as a teacher than Sean Desai, who got his doctorate while coaching at Temple. I know you love a Philly guy, got his doctorate in education and was an adjunct professor
Exactly.
while he was being an assistant football coach at Temple. So,
real quick, if there are any of our listeners who were in one of his classes, email me at zberman@theathletic.com. Okay. Or my DMs are open. You can drop in on my DMs.
Should I put your phone number in there?
Don't do that right now, but I'd be happy to give you my phone number if you were in his class.
it's a good pitch.
I would love to find out more. So that's an open invitation.
Or you can DM me and I'll write the story instead. Just kidding. DM Zach.
What was the class called?
Oh, I don't know actually.
I don't know either. I want to find that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a guy who like everything you hear about him is that he is like just as like the first sentence of everybody talking about Brian Johnson is about Jalen Hurts. The first sentence you always hear about Sean Desai is like, boy, is this guy smart.
Yeah, and like you have to be a hard worker, and have the ability to make an impact on people around you to get from where he was at Temple, right, to where he is now. If you talk to people who were at Temple at the time, it's not like they're like, this guy is going to be a defensive coordinator one day. That's not for the role he was in. That's not the track to lead to an NFL defensive coordinator. So you have to work your rear end off, and you have to be smart, and you have to be creative, and you have to have the ability to connect with people and resonate with people to get from where he is to where he is, from where he was to where he is. So I'm looking forward to meeting him and learning more about his story. And we'll see how he does on Sunday.
And a real full circle moment for Birds with Friends that we now have a hashtag Sports Indian. If we can gentrify that topic without Sheil here, the three of us white people talking about Sports Indians, it's exciting. So that's good.
We miss Sheil.
Yeah, I miss having him around here.
Yeah.
Maybe if he had come to lunch, Zach wouldn't have been quite so business heavy.
I don't think I need to apologize for trying to improve the show with the people that I do the show with.
I don't
I
think
just
you
wanted
do
to hang
either,
out with
Zach.
my friends, man.
Okay. All right.
Just want to have a nice lunch.
I don't think it's mutually exclusive, right? I enjoy the show. I enjoy better, right? I mean,
Disagree.
You're either standing still or you're falling.
No, I mean sometimes you need to take a pause and just hang out with your friends.
Okay. When that day comes, let me know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you like this, like with your non-work friends? Are you in those situations trying to still get better? Like you hang out with your buddy and you're like, okay, what can I do better?
100%. Yes. 100%. I'm like that.
It's so exhausting.
Is it like that's how you avoid complacency, right?
Sometimes it's okay to be complacent.
Yeah, maybe you need like an hour a day that you like.
Yeah,
just decompress.
Just like
1 hour.
Like your boy has his 15 minutes of serendipity. Maybe you could take 20 minutes of complacency.
Who's that? Who are you talking
Hinky.
about? Okay. Oh. Yeah, look, I think it's having a growth mindset, right? I don't think it's we don't have to get into it here. There's some things that I would like be embarrassed by or apologize for. That's not one of them. Coming to a lunch with my coworkers prepared to figure out how to improve the show is a good like that.
Sloan, it's so good to see you. I've missed you so much. What can I do better on the podcast?
I mean, I talk to my kids about like how they can
how they can
or I'll. I mean, look, we don't need to talk about me, but it's a question that I ask all the time. What can be done better?
I will say, as like being, we're all in person, it's really cool watching you guys in action and like, talking to the people you have to talk to and with your notebooks and, so you both work very hard.
Notebooks.
Yes. Your little notepads. I like it.
Thank you.
You both work very hard and you need to credit yourself a little more, Zach, and not knock yourself down.
Amen.
What's your takeaway from seeing us in a social setting last night?
I thought it was great. Yeah.
And
guys
boy,
are
Marissa,
mingling.
I mean, talk about pounding drinks, Marissa. Gosh.
I had so many waters. I did have a lemonade. We went to dinner, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get a lemonade. Be real wild over here.
Good for you.
Yes. So.
Okay. Let's talk about Howie Roseman.
Yes. Let's talk about Howie.
I mean, you only talked for 9 minutes, as you said, but what did you learn from general manager?
So I think there's gonna be a lot of guys who aren't back next year.
Oh.
Yeah.
In 9 minutes?
Yeah, 9 minutes. I mean, look, he can't really talk about free agencies. Now he did say at one point, like he was asked, it's hard to hear the questions, but you hear the answers. The questions was about like the benefit of having a quarterback on a rookie contract. And he talked about, you're getting this question in before we pick our quarterback. Like I don't think Howell would make much of a, like, I don't think he's going to play coy. They want to keep James. That's the big part of this offseason is when, how much, what's it look like, right? But they have so many free agents, and I think they recognize that they're going to have a hard time. He said it when he was on the podium 2 weeks ago about how they're going to get comp picks. Like, he was adamant about that. As we get closer to free agency here, there were a lot of questions about, there was one question like, do you make offers to every one of your guys? And he's like, you don't want to insult them, right? Like, these guys have earned markets.
I thought that was a good point.
Yeah. He's like, they've reached this point for a reason. The Eagles have numbers in mind. They'll give the range that they might be going to go, but they recognize they just can't get to some of these numbers. They have too many good players who have expiring contracts. But I also think that the Eagles view this internally like they have a lot of guys back on offense in particular, and they have a lot of opportunities in the draft to add quality players, and they're going to need to hit picks. I mean, that's a big part of this. And they're going to need, like, Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean. They're going to need those guys to turn into real quality players for them. But I get the sense that, well, I guess we'll talk about in Flu World Order on Friday.
Thank you.
But that there's a lot of, like,
Back in my good graces.
If you're doing a stay or go thing here, there's a lot of goes on that list.
I think that's right. And it's also like an interesting, not that this is a good thing, but the fact that they're turning over the defensive staff anyway. Like, it's not like they're losing continuity on one side. It's like this was going to be a totally new defense anyway. Yeah. Right. There's only going to be 4 or 5 defensive holdovers who are starters. Right. And I think that, like, I think they're going to lean heavily into, like, we need to have an elite offense, and we need to just sort of get by on defense. Like, I don't think they're not going to be able to build out the kind of defensive personnel that they had last year. It's not mathematically possible, right?
Yeah. At least talent-wise, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like, unless a couple guys pop.
Yeah, like take a leap or they draft really well. Yeah.
It's going to be like, I think we should expect them to be like a very middle of the road defense next year, even if Sean Desai is awesome. I just like there's regression baked in to begin with. There's injury luck baked in to begin with, but also the personnel is just not going to be as good.
I mean, you have a starting point of, you have 3 guys who you're expecting to be blue chip players from the jump, and that's Reddick, Sweat, and Slay. Okay,
right.
You need those 3 guys, A, to be healthy, which is never a given,
right,
and B, you can't have like a drop off in whether it's age regression or production regression. You can't have that. So Sweat needs to have a huge year. I mean, Reddick needs to have a huge year. Slay cannot drop off. I mean, you start with those 3, and then you obviously need development from Davis and from Dean. And then they're gonna have to, I mean, they can
Williams,
they can be opportunistic. Like, you meant, I thought when you were outlining how they could fill those spots, and you said linebacker and free agency.
Yeah, there's a lot of
they can be opportunistic there. They can find, if you evaluate correctly, which they haven't typically done at linebacker.
Right.
But you can find someone.
There will be a second week of free agency starting caliber linebacker available for $3 million.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I've tried to like look at what the Eagles didn't do as well in 2018, 2019, 2020 compared to 2017. And there's a lot of like big picture philosophical things I can point to. But the other part is they hit on guys at like an alarmingly high rate in 2017, and they did not have the same success in 2018. If they hit on like Haloti Ngata and Mike Wallace, and you go on to, who else? There was Paul Warlow that year, or was that the year before?
That was the year before.
Yeah, it's like so.
No, he
yeah.
he might have been that year.
Yeah, so yeah, I believe he was that year.
Yeah.
So if they hit on those guys at the same rate that they hit on like the Torrey Smith and Chris Long and Patrick Robinson,
But I
it's a
also
different
think
conversation.
that there was too much sentimentality in terms
absolutely.
of bringing guys back
Yeah.
from that team, and I don't think they're going to make the same mistakes this year, and I also think there are fewer opportunities to make those same mistakes.
True.
The guys who are like they're really sentimental about, like if Jason Kelsey wants to come back, he's going to come back. If Brandon Graham wants to come back, if the price is right, he's probably going to come back, and I think that's fine. He's a rotational player anyway. And Fletcher Cox, I guess we'll find out. But like there are fewer of those long-term guys left for them to be sentimental about.
Yes, you're right. You're right. But when I talk about the lottery tickets, like when you sign Kaiser White the second week of free agency, and and James Bradbury's available the week after the draft, and you're able to trade for CJ Gardner-Johnson, right? Like you don't know if you're going to have that same hit rate next year. So it could look different based on that success rate as well.
We can get to this in Flu World Order, but I think that to your blue chippers point on defense, it feels like they probably bring back either Hargrave or Gardner-Johnson.
I agree. Yeah.
Right. And I guess that sort of depends on what the markets are for both those guys. I would say it's more likely that they bring back neither than that they bring back both.
Oh, I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree. And I think, I thought you did really good write-ups in our top 150, which you can check out on The Athletic. But I mean, both those guys are going to be in demand. Both of them we can quibble about whether CJ Gardner-Johnson's the best safety available because Jesse Bates is a really good player as well, but CJ's up there. Javon Hargrave's the best interior pass rusher available, and he's going to get paid. But the Eagles really value interior pass rush, like big time. And so now there's debate about whether you pay a 30-year-old Javon Hargrave. And they evaluated Javon correctly last time, so we'll see.
Sorry, I got a cute picture of Jane from school.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. One thing with Nick Sirianni, I mean, you mocked it, but I asked about the third receiver spot.
It was a good answer. It was a good question. I was just
because we've talked, like, are they going to upgrade the Quez Watkins spot in the offense? And he defended Quez and Zach Pascal, right? Who he kind of combined as one number 3 receiver. And yeah, they didn't have the same opportunities. Quez didn't have the same opportunities that he had the year before, right? But there were also opportunities that I don't think Quez took advantage of.
Yeah, I think if he's right that there were fewer opportunities, but the root of your question and the root of the frustration and the root of what Quez Watkins admitted in the locker room on the last day of availability is that he didn't take advantage of these opportunities.
Yeah, and so you had a good
in the Super Bowl,
and you had a good piece on an all 32 last week.
See, this is hard. This is like you keep giving me. You did a good job, and it feels like I have to give you one back, but then it feels like I'm only saying it because you said it, which makes it so.
No,
I don't know. It's tough.
Where you were talking about potential cap casualties, and you mentioned Quez Watkins, and look, I don't think.
But I said more of a trade
cap.
Exactly. They can clear like $2.5 million.
And so I've spoken to people who really know this, who know about this team. Okay, on the outside, not on the inside, who say like they should really go offense heavy early in the draft, and you need to load up on offense. And
that makes sense to me.
And I understand it philosophically, but
not wide receiver. I don't think wide receiver.
So that's what it's like. You need to just imagine what this offense would look like with a dynamic, with a Jalen Hyatt or Jackson Smith-Jabba, or
I don't think I love that. Because you're gonna pay Vontae.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna pay. Obviously, AJ Brown is already paid.
Mm-hmm. Dallas Goedert.
Now, like I think a sneaky possibility is for them to use like another do the Dallas Goedert thing again. Like a second round pick on a.
Oh, wasn't there someone who talked about this like 2 months ago on this podcast?
Because he's 28 years old.
And you were like, a tight end at number 30? No way.
Well, I think it would be a bad pick. a bad use of resources, but I think it's a possibility that they do it.
So what I'm trying to do on this podcast is not
I don't
just
even remember this conversation. Like,
Honestly,
Marissa, do you remember it?
I
it was
don't-
probably
I
in
think
minute
because he
95.
And I talked about Darnell Washington, and
Yes, no, I do remember.
and Bo was like, if they draft a tight end in the first round, that would be the worst.
At 10 or 31.
31, yeah. I mean, at that, I said the
That
second.
doesn't sound like me.
I mean, we do enough hours of
I
the show
mean,
that
if you could tell me like around when it was, I could
Yeah.
go back and listen to the tape.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like me. I think it's a possibility. I think the overarching philosophy though is that the Eagles' path forward to continued Super Bowl relevance is probably not going to be building an all-around roster like they had in 2022. I think their path to being Super Bowl relevant is building one of the 3 best offenses in the league year in, year out, and hoping that they can continue that.
yeah,
And
I think
and just hoping that you get, some Chiefs like variability week to week on defense that sometimes it's good enough.
But no, to circle back because as we're talking about how they would spend their drafts, it just like the fact that Howie keeps mentioning this comp pick thing shows you that they're expecting to lose enough guys that this formula really plays in their favor.
I mean, he's right. Like, just the math of it is crazy.
Who were the guys they get the biggest comp picks for?
JCJ, Bradbury, Miles Sanders potentially. Isaac Seumalo might be the highest paid guard on the market, right? So I don't know what Miles' market's going to be, but
That's why, like, if they let Hargrave and Gardner-Johnson go, that's probably 2 third-round picks that they're getting in 2023.
I mean, probably
24.
I would say Bradbury too, right?
It's
Yeah,
next. The picks are
possibility.
next season, right?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
will get
And-
him next season.
And like Isaac, there's going to be teams
I think so.
Yeah.
that have Isaac at the top of their offensive line board.
Michael said that when he was on, that he thinks he'll get paid.
Now,
I think I'd go. Obviously, Michael Dunn won.
yeah.
now
Now,
Rob here,
we would say we did get Michael Dunn to join us at
Yes.
lunch after
Yes.
things had already gotten a little bit feisty, and his presence obviously calmed us all down. And tells you
Yeah.
what kind of a good teammate
well
he is.
dressed, man.
I texted him. I
Smelling
was like,
good.
Yeah.
he was working out and he took a quick shower and Ubered there, and we saw him running in. It was pretty
yeah.
comical. He did not see us.
And he suffered from the same problem we all suffer from is if you do a workout, you take a shower,
Yeah.
absolutely guaranteed to just be sweating your face off for the next 20 minutes. Like,
He sat down at the table.
No
I'm like, why are you sweating? You Ubered here.
But man, I mean,
poor guy.
yeah, great company. Like just awesome company. Is fun to talk to.
He's so funny.
Knows the stuff too. Yeah.
Don't tell him he's funny. I
He
told
knows
him
he's
not
funny.
By the way, big
Great
team,
timing.
a big team Bo guy in terms of the length of the podcast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We brought this up, and
I mean, of course, we brought it up. It was the first thing we had to ask him.
and he
And
was
said
like,
he likes the length of the episodes.
Yeah, but then he also gets all this free time from me.
well, so that's what he said. He said he has a lot of. He said it's like his background music, right? He doesn't.
Yeah.
He
He does usually listen live. I'm not sure if he's listening live right now, but yeah.
So he said those people who like listen to it on their commutes
Yeah.
or
He's like, I don't have one of those.
yeah, which I would imagine what a lot of
Drones.
your podcast audience is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
He also has, a lot more free time in the off season than
I mean, I'm
Someone
doing the
working
show
9 to
for
5.
Michael, and so if he says longer, and we'll go longer.
I mean, there is one thing I do hear from people who listen as they do the dishes or
Yes.
like household chores, things of that nature.
Mm.
Yeah,
walk the dog. Yes.
walk the
Walk
dog.
Johnson
How long's the
walks
dog walk? I'm a dog guy. How long's the dog walk? 30 minutes. Oh, boom! There we go. You listen at 1.5
we are
speed.
never doing a half-hour podcast. That's
No, you
definitely
do
not gonna
45 minutes at 1.5 speed, and you're good. Yeah.
Not gonna happen. Never. As we hit the 59-minute mark,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We're close
Um,
to 1 hour.
we actually are gonna wrap this one up soon
Because you got plans. Yes.
No, because when we do 3 shows a week, you can go a little bit shorter. We're gonna do 1 or 2 shows a week. It can be short a little bit. Okay?
Your last night in Indy. This is. I mean, you got to paint the town tonight.
Not really. Happy to not do that. Get out of town tomorrow. I'm not the one staying here till Friday so I can hobnob with all the heavy hitters.
First off, I'm staying till Thursday night, and I am there. I'm here to work and to
Work.
work.
Yeah, okay. Well,
Yeah.
so
Hard
am
every
I.
day.
That is
Yes.
work.
Yeah. So No, I mean, this is like Peyton Manning's last night in Indy. You know, you got
This nonsense.
You can find him at St. Elmo's tonight.
Listen, no, I'm not going to St. Elmo's.
Where you going
I'm
to
gonna be
dinner tonight?
I'm gonna be tracking down.
Yeah, you got any big
I'm gonna
dinner
be-
plans
I'm gonna be
tonight?
tracking
Where you
down
going to dinner
Nick
tonight, Bo?
Sirianni and asking him the questions that need to be asked. That's what I'm gonna be
Yeah.
doing.
Like, did you play NCAA football 2010 with Brian Johnson?
That's right. All right. Is there anything else that we didn't cover from today?
No, so they still have an. Oh well, so here's one small thing. The Jonathan Gannon
Nothing
thing.
small.
The Jonathan Gannon. We
Oh yeah,
discussed
we should
that.
talk about that.
And Gannon was asked 3 times about the Super Bowl and answered it twice and then didn't really want to get into it anymore. Took responsibility, said there are things he could have done better, but was purposefully vague. And look, he could have he could have given a better answer there. He probably looked at it like,
Yeah, I mean, that does at this point.
Yeah.
It doesn't serve him really.
exactly like guys, I'm not there anymore. You know, deal with it.
You asked him, I think, how would you rank like your 5 biggest accomplishments as
No.
Eagles defensive
No,
coordinator?
I did not ask that. But
There was one really interesting thing he said, and this was a question that you asked.
I thought we only
So-
mocked the questions I
So
asked.
Zach got the best answer out again, and that tells you that he and JG are really simpatico. You asked him a good question about the dynamics of building his staff and like poaching from Nick.
Yeah,
Because we know that Nick Rallis was named his defensive coordinator, and he said something very interesting that like he said they had talked about it beforehand, but then he goes, but I made one mistake and I had to apologize for that. What do you think that was? What do you think he meant by that? And he then
Yeah,
obviously
he
the follow-up
would not
was, what
say
was
what-
the mistake, and then he said,
Yeah,
I'm
so-
not going to go into it.
so unless he was referring to someone that he tried to get that was blocked, and I haven't heard that to be the case, my guess is it was taking Nick Rallis with him now because he was allowed to like legally because it
right.
was a when I say legally, that's not he was allowed to within the rules because it was a promotion for Nick Rallis,
Right.
right? So you know Nick Rallis was the linebackers coach here, and you can't block someone from getting promoted. But there sometimes is like a gentleman's understanding, like you hire your own staff, which is ironic because Nick Sirianni brought Jonathan Gannon with him.
Right.
You know,
And his thing was like he was going to get a defensive coordinator anyway.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
trying to- right.
yeah, and so maybe Nick Rallis. That was not the case with Nick Rallis,
But it was so weird because when like
I don't know if it was Nick Rallis. By the way, I'm
We don't know.
speculating here. Yeah,
it's so
speculating.
odd because like we heard through the grapevine that like if JG gets
Yeah.
a job, he's bringing Rallis with him, right?
Yeah.
So if that was what it was,
Yeah.
then what
I
was
mean-
but it sounds like whatever it was, Nick was pissed
Nick
at him
was
for
pissed, yeah.
something, and he had to apologize.
Well, Nick's got a temper.
yeah,
I think
Nick's hard
that's-
on those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, Nick's got a temper. But I would also, I mean, candidly, I would say if Nick and I were in a conversation, I mean, not to defend Jonathan or Nick Rallis, if that's what we're
Well,
talking
we
about
know
here.
that's your- yeah.
I would
Their
say,
corner.
like, think back to how, like 34-year-old or 35-year-old Nick Sirianni coaching wide receivers for the Chargers must have thought when Frank Reich got the head coaching job and, you know, wanted to bring him to be the OC in Indianapolis. Now, I know it's not like Frank Reich isn't leaving the staff and bringing the guy with him, but you want your guys to progress. You want your guys to go on that track. And this is a chance for Nick Rallis to call defense. So, but I don't know if it
Yeah,
was
I think,
yeah.
I wonder. I mean, I
don't know
wonder
the
if- I wonder
dynamics
if
of
it was
play.
like an order of operations thing, like
Oh,
he
interesting.
like went ahead and did it without
Yeah.
asking Nick for permission or
Gotcha.
something like that.
Yeah.
But I always like. I mean, I get you want to keep your staff strong, but my inclination is always like, you know, if they're getting a better job, be happy for your guys, right? Like,
Yeah,
I
like
don't know.
look, if I was a head coach or hiring coordinator or something like that, and someone wanted to leave, my mindset was be, all right, I'm gonna hire someone better than you. I'm gonna replace you with someone better, right? Like you go and let's view this as an opportunity. This doesn't happen to us. This happens for us, right? That's how I would look at it.
when do you think you're going to start like the motivational speaker circuit?
Yeah.
Um,
After the adjunct circuit.
when we do something on a cameo that gets me fired, right? So
He's referring to a cameo we had today in which he was asked to techness migrate, being Indian, being Jewish, and having gone to Maryland. Unfortunately, none of you will ever know the answer to that question.
Zach obviously did not answer the question. Let's make that very clear. I don't even think the listeners need to even think that.
All right. Anything else we should talk about? Or anything else from Gannon that was relevant?
the Super Bowl, I mean, look, he didn't give answers that I think would satisfy the fan base. And
I was curious about the thing that he told Peter King about.
Yeah, good question.
Lurie,
Good question.
wanting to pay him like a head coach's salary to keep him, but it was weird because he said that conversation happened in like the post game, like post Super Bowl.
Oh no, I think he said after the Super Bowl. I don't think he meant like directly after. I meant like after. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I
Like
guess
the-
that makes sense. But yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting. Look, I think.
I don't think he didn't give us too much clarity on that. But.
Yeah, I think Jonathan was ready to go when like I think he was like.
Well, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
yeah,
But
you get a chance to be a head
yeah.
coach. You take the chance to be a head coach. Like,
I definitely agree there.
you
But
think he
there's-
wanted out of Dodge?
I just think he was like, like the sentiment, like, all right, you can pay me what I
You
would
were
make
getting a
someone.
little too clingy, maybe.
No, I don't think it was that. I don't think it was that. No, I think that there was a school of thought. I did hear from some people who were saying like, look, if you pay him this salary, I mean, there's gonna be a job that comes open soon that's better than Arizona, right? Like, what if I don't know. I don't have that.
Right, you're gonna have to replace him eventually anyway. Like,
No, like from his perspective, like if you're gonna get paid this salary anyways, then you can be a little more selective about where you
But
go.
there's no guarantees.
A, there's no guarantees, and B, I think like
I think you take. The job.
I think he was ready. Like,
Yeah.
I think I think Professor Selman he wanted to get away from Deniz. So Deniz has some minions as I've learned as well. So
Okay, Marissa, how are you?
I'm great. Yeah. Just want you guys to get along.
we do get along. I so enjoyed Bo's company. Honestly,
That's what I was hoping to have. I was hoping to have your company.
Bo, I've had drinks with you the past 2 nights.
Boy, was he putting him back?
No, that's not true. That's not true.
Definitely not
Stumbling
true.
around.
Zach literally showed us his sleep thing. He slept 5 hours last night.
It's not bad.
I'm like, do you ever sleep more than 8 hours? I don't think he could find one that he slept more than 8 hours. Crazy.
I mean, I could. I just have to go back and find out.
Like-
Let's
Yeah.
go back
like
a
8 years.
couple years.
I can tell you when it was actually. If I mean, this is bad podcasting.
All right. I think we can probably wrap this bad boy up.
Yeah, cool. 1 hour, 6 minutes.
Yeah, real tight.
Yeah.
Real tight.
As Zach rolls his eyes.
Look at
and
it as a
shakes
word
his
count,
head.
Bo.
Don't get him started. Oh no. We love you. Goodbye.
Let's just say some conversations were had.
Both try to be limited
Someone-
in the written form and the
someone-
audio form.
Someone had to stand up for the masses. Okay.
No one
Someone
puts
had to be Spartacus.
No one put a word count on Bo.
no one puts Bo Wolf in a corner. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Someone had to step up. Okay. Among many other people. Okay. For the rest of the week, nothing else Eagles wise this week. Now the staff has been mostly finalized. Obviously, they'll work on building out the defensive staff.
Well, the staff hasn't been finalized, we should say. They don't have a linebackers coach right now.
Did you listen to the rest
Oh,
of the
yeah,
sentence
they
that I
built out
said?
defensive staff. Okay. Sorry. The coordinator's been finalized. Sorry.
I mean, did the Phillies make a trade?
I mean, I haven't looked at my.
I mean, you were so eager to jump in.
His
You didn't even
phone's
let me
plugged in.
finish. You didn't even listen to the thing that I said that clarified what you were jumping in on.
Yeah, you're right. Proceed.
What happened to the active listener? What happened to no one's a better listener?
Zach,
can't-
he was closing the show.
You're right. I'm taking the headphones off.
Wow.
All right. And so we'll be back on Friday with the much anticipated Flu World Order, easily the most anticipated Flu World Order in Birds with Friends history. Can't wait for that. So we'll see you then. For Zach and Marissa and Nick, thanks again for joining us on the show. We appreciate the time. And we'll talk to you on Friday. As always, we love you.